Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Chase Senior here with you. Week 5 of the NFL season officially in the books, and San Francisco coming through with a huge victory over the Carolina Panthers in a really dominant performance in offensive and defensive football. But the special teams absolutely dreadful as the Niners win by a final score of 37-15. We're live on YouTube, live on Callin, reacting to this game, giving you my takeaways, and of course, we'll be taking your calls on Callin as well. We'll get to the special teams unit because they were bad, and really the most notable downfall of this performance today for San Francisco as they head out east and come through with a really big win to get above 500 for the first time this year. Appreciate all of you for tuning into the show, no matter where you are or how you're watching. So really, this Niners win was much needed on a couple of levels. They needed to get to 3-2 on the year, especially considering what happened across the NFC West. The Rams went down to the Cowboys. The Cardinals went down to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Seattle Seahawks went down to the New Orleans Saints. And because of that, the Niners remain undefeated in the NFC West. And while they've been a little bit underwhelming up until this point in the regular season, when you are trying to make the playoffs, you have to at least start with winning your division. And right now, San Francisco certainly sitting pretty there. But this dominant win did not come without a cost because there were a couple of injuries that we want to talk about. Now, keep in mind, we're reacting to this right after the game. So as of right now, this is what we know. Emmanuel Moseley on a pass breakup, as he was fantastic throughout this game, left the game, was walking on the sideline, didn't go into the blue injury tent, but it looked as though he left with an apparent knee or ankle injury. This is a guy who's been spectacular in coverage and tackling throughout the last couple of years. And for a UDFA to get himself in a position where he's about to make the bag and earn a bag, if this is a serious injury, that's awful for him in the final year of his contract because he's been so good for this football team, not giving up a touchdown in coverage last year. And he's been just as good, if not better, this year. If he's out for an extended period of time, or maybe even for the season, that's awful news. When we get an update on Emmanuel Moseley, of course, we'll let you know. Also, Nick Bosa left the game in the second half with a groin injury on his left leg. The Niners took his helmet away. They didn't let him come back. If it's a soft tissue injury, of course, that's something that could linger for a little while. And then Robbie Gould. Mitch Wishnowsky had to come out for a couple of PATs. He shanked the first, made the second, but he got demolished on a kick return because this special teams unit today was terrible. If he's out for a little while, the Niners, of course, going to be in the market for a kicker. But that's the injury front. Let's start to get to our takeaways with this game as a whole. What the Niners did, they took care of business, and I called it. San Francisco was going to win this game by multiple scores. The only way that they were going to lose is if they coughed the football up. Now, George Kittle did that early in the game. He was targeted early and often, and then he put the football on the carpet, and he really wasn't targeted much after that. Inexcusable for a veteran to turn the football over in that spot for a guy who was injured to start the year and is trying to get acclimated and involved in this offense. And he was, and then Kyle Shanahan sees him fumble that football, and he's like, you know what, George Kittle, we'll use you as a blocker. So that's really one of the negatives in this football game. But the Niners, they really dominated offensively and defensively. The special teams unit was bad, but San Francisco really displayed what they're capable of on both sides of the rock. And the Panthers now 1-26 under Matt Rule when they've allowed 17 points or more. This was an elite football team in San Francisco with Super Bowl aspirations, one of the more loaded rosters in the NFL, in a wide-open NFC, a team that is capable of making a deep run and winning this conference, going up against a Panthers team that has some really good players, but they're not well coached. And what you want to see in a game like this is a team that can really overwhelm the opponent. And I thought running the football, converting on some critical third downs, which the Niners were terrible at a couple of weeks ago against Denver, and then defensively just swarming Baker Mayfield, forcing turnovers like that Emmanuel Moseley pick six. Those are the things that you want to see from an elite team going up against a bad team. And that's what the Niners were able to do in this game from Charlotte. As we continue to break this game down, your call's coming up in just a few moments. Grade the 49ers performance today or tonight, because during our watch party, in which about 60,000 people joined us, people were tuned in from all across the globe, A, B, C, D, or F, let us know what you thought about what San Francisco did against the Carolina Panthers. Also, sign up with our sportsbook partner, BetUS. 125% deposit bonus if you head to chatsports.com/49bet. Promo code Niners125 for a 125% deposit bonus. You put in $100, you get $125 in free money back. You want to bet on football, college football, the NBA, Major League Baseball playoffs? Do so with our sportsbook partner, BetUS. So, really, some more takeaways before we start taking your calls. At some point, the Niners had to get George Kittle involved in this passing game. And they made it a point early to do that. They targeted him on the first play from scrimmage, 5 yards. He had that back shoulder ball a little bit early. Then he fumbled the ball away. But if George Kittle is a key component in this offense, with Brandon Aiyuk, who I thought was really good, Deebo Samuel, who got involved a little bit later, as well as Juwan Jennings, who once again was money. On the money downs, it makes this offense more diverse, which is important with Jimmy Garoppolo as the quarterback because he doesn't offer that running threat like Trey Lance. So you have to at least try to confuse the opposing defense. And by having George Kittle involved, it makes the Niners offense a little bit more dangerous because the other defense on the other side of the field doesn't know exactly what's coming. So I really liked what I saw from that regard. As for the NFC West, this is the Niners division to win. It's the Niners' division to win. I don't think the Rams are a good football team. We saw that last week as San Francisco completely and thoroughly dominated them, but also they went down to the Dallas Cowboys. I understand Dallas has a really good defense, but the Cardinals go down to the Eagles. They missed that field goal late. Seattle Seahawks lose against the New Orleans Saints. And the easiest path to make the playoffs and get a home game in the playoffs is to win your division. And right now, San Francisco on a good foot in terms of that. Defensively, though, Emmanuel Moseley with the pick 6. He does it again. And let's hope that he's healthy, depending on what that injury is, because him and Charvarius Ward have the makings of one of the better cornerback tandems in the National Football League. And speaking of Mooney Ward, couple of pass breakups. I thought that Mooney Ward really showed and has shown all year why the Niners made him their key free agent acquisition. He has really good ball instincts. He turns around to the football and just has a knack for making plays. And when you have a guy like that, it completely changes what you can do defensively with the defensive line and the defensive line depth that San Francisco has. Now, if Emmanuel Moseley goes down and he's out for an extended period of time, you have Jason Verrett, who's about to return, in addition to the other cornerbacks on this roster. As for Juwan Jennings, have to give him a shout-out. He was awesome. Big-time plays on critical spots. The Niners' ground game really dominant in this football game. I'm pulling up the overall team stats. So the 49ers today on the ground, 397 yards as compared to the Panthers, 308. Both teams had 11 drives. The Niners, yards per play, 6.5, 244 passing the football, 153 rushing the football, as compared to the Panthers, 64. And on some of those big plays, on some of those big downs, I thought the Niners once again were good. And what's a good trend for this team as a whole, 7 of 12 on third downs in this game. And last week, I thought they really improved in that category as well. So the overall takeaways for the Niners, it's a very impressive win. They took care of business against a poor football team, and they're able to come through with the victory. We'll see what those injuries are to Emmanuel Moseley, Nick Bosa, as well as Robbie Gould. If those injuries are long-term injuries, obviously that's a little bit of a concern, but things are trending in the right direction. And lastly, let's have a conversation about Jimmy Garoppolo. Here's the deal with Jimmy G before we start taking your calls. This team is so loaded everywhere, offensively, defensively. Of course, with Brian Schneider, the special teams unit, as I teased a little bit earlier, was bad. I mean, for the second time this year, they had a field goal kick blocked. They gave a couple of big returns, which put the Panthers in a position to put some points on the board. If you do that against an elite team, you're asking yourself to get beat. And the Niners came through with that recipe today. They were asking themselves to get beat. Now, against a bad and poor team, they were able to escape that. But they have to shore up the special teams unit. As for Jimmy Garoppolo, if he plays average to above average football, considering how deep this team, at multiple positions all across the board, this is a San Francisco team that through 5 weeks, up there with the Philadelphia Eagles, I think, could win the NFC. The Green Bay Packers lost to the Giants. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have some holes. Outside of that, this is a conference that is absolutely wide open. And the Niners have a luxurious opportunity to win the NFC if Jimmy Garoppolo can play average to above average football and not turn the football over. I thought today he made a couple of really accurate and pinpoint precision passes. That is the Jimmy Garoppolo that needs to show up week in and week out for the 49ers to fully tap in to their potential. About to start taking your calls here on Call In. For those of you watching us here on YouTube, greatly appreciate that as well. Going to start off with Evan. Going to make you the first caller here on our post-game show. Evan, what do you got for me here on the Niners Report? TOA.
Hey, that game was amazing, honestly. But to me, I think that running back, Terrell Coleman, I think he's back to his former self when he was with Atlanta. I think the Niners could use him with the other running back as a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, Evan, you make a good point there, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Tevin Coleman on this postgame show because Tevin Coleman was great tonight. And the fact and the ability for Kyle Shanahan and this coaching staff to get immediate results from the running back position, regardless of who's in there, really is ridiculous. I mean, the other 31 teams in the NFL are not able to plug and play and get production from running backs like San Francisco is able to do. Now, the injuries, of course, are concerning because they run this physical style of football, and that lends itself to guys getting injured. But for Tevin Coleman to catch that 9-yard pass for the touchdown early in the game, to catch that back shoulder ball, and to be acclimated and elevated to the active roster and be this good this early after it looked as though he was washed goes to show you the coaching brilliance that I talk about with Kyle Shanahan and the ability to plug and play players at that running back spot and yield immediate results. Tevin Coleman, we certainly saw that today. Next up on the Niners Report, going to go to our guy, Nick Fury, the Seahawks fan who is a closet Niners fan. What's up, Nick? Tough loss for the Seahawks today. F the Sea Chickens, but the Niners come through with the dub. What do you got?
Well, two players really stand out to me, Jimmy Garoppolo and Jeffrey Wilson.
Okay.
Jimmy G, it looked like he had a better game this time. I mean, really improved. If he can keep this up, 49ers could be a dangerous team to win the NFC West and the NFC.
I agree. And that's why I said, like, if Jimmy Garoppolo plays average to above average football, this is a team to be reckoned with. And Jeff Wilson, of course, with all the running backs getting injured, Elijah Mitchell, Ty Davis-Price, the revolving door at that position. Last week, 32-yard touchdown run against the Rams. He goes right up the gut, displays that long speed. And then in this game, first drive of the game, 50-yard run, set up that Tevin Coleman touchdown. And he was really good throughout this game. Let's see what Jeff Wilson was able to do because I thought he was really good. 17 carries for 120. 7.1 yards per carry. Again, goes back to the original point. You get production from Jeff Wilson. You get production from Tevin Coleman. Whoever enters the backfield for San Francisco, they're able to get immediate results. Going to go next to Ruben, my guy Ruben. Welcome to the post-game show here on YouTube as well as Colin. What's up, Rube?
Yo, Chase, how's it going, my man?
Doing amazing, man. Even better than I'm hearing from you right now.
Awesome. Hey, I just wanted to give you props. I think you're doing great on your show, man. Congratulations.
Thanks, bro.
Everything's amazing. It's beautiful, lovely, and all that good stuff, man. You're a master at your craft. So I just wanted to give you props. My son actually has a couple questions for you, if you don't mind answering his questions.
Dude, get the young buck on here. Let's go.
There you go. My son's name is Julian.
What's up, Julian?
What's up, Julian?
Hey, sir, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm so glad that you're tuned into our show and really appreciate the nice compliments from your pops.
Yeah. How do you feel like the Niners are going to do against the Falcons, and how do you think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to do too?
Yeah, so, look, today was good Jimmy G. And then we saw bad Jimmy G against the Denver Broncos. And that's the thing with Jimmy G, and that's why he's kind of a middle-tier starter in this league. You can see elite Jimmy G. You can see really bad Jimmy G. Last week he was solid. This week I thought he was really good. Couple of balls into double and triple coverage in which he fit that ball into a tight window, whether it be to George Kittle, Jawan Jennings, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel. If he plays like he did today, that's when the Niners are at their best because they're so hard to defend with the run scheme that Kyle Shanahan runs. So if Garoppolo could play like this, the arrow is pointing up for San Francisco. As for the Atlanta Falcons, they've been sneaky good this year. That's a game that you have to win. And honestly, that's a game that I expect the Niners to display their level of dominance like they did today against the Carolina Panthers. Also, when the Niners go out east and then they stay out east, they're like 7-1 in those games in the Kyle Shanahan era. So that, of course, very important as well. The Atlanta Falcons may have surprised a lot of people so far throughout this year, but they're not a good football team. And this is why I said it was so critical and imperative for the Niners to start the year well. And honestly, they should be undefeated in my eyes. They should have not lost to the Chicago Bears. Losing to the Denver Broncos, considering how bad they looked on Thursday Night Football, inexcusable. And that's why I said you have an opportunity to start the year hot, and then you start to enter this really difficult stretch going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, which is the next opponent awaiting after the Atlanta Falcons, the Chargers, the Tampa Bay Bucks all coming up. But with the Niners right now, like, this is a team that is really so deep all across the board, and that's what I love about the construction of this football team. So they should no doubt take care of business against the Atlanta Falcons. News coming in from Coop. What do you got, Coop?
Just in 49ers fear, Emmanuel Moseley has suffered a torn left ACL on Sunday.
So there you
Further
go.
test needed.
Okay, so the 49ers fear that Emmanuel Moseley, who has been one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL the last 2 years, and really the last couple of years, has suffered a torn ACL. So that is huge news for San Francisco if he goes down for an extended period of time. Ruben, you got anything else from the Sun or you?
No, Chase. Just want to thank you, and big props to the faithful, man. This win feels great. So thank you very much, Chase, for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you and your son for coming on. Let's go to Gwendolyn now. Gwendolyn, what do you got? Gwendolyn, you there? All right, we'll go next to Lawrence. Lawrence, what's up on the 49ers report? What do you got for me? Lawrence, you there? All right, my boy AU, who always turns up, shows out on that Super Chat menu. What's up, AU?
Hey, you hear me?
I hear you. What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, Chase?
I'm doing well, man. Good to hear from you, homie.
Same here. I just first off want to say that, I live in the middle of the country. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, and during the Montana years, so that tells you around how old I am.
Nice.
And but it's really nice to be able to have your show on YouTube because I can't get the game where I'm at, and so it's really nice to be able to watch you. And
that's why we're here, bro. That's why we're here, man.
And all that. So I just want to thank you for that. But yeah, that Moseley injury is upsetting. I mean, it's concerning, especially and also with Bosa. And this was a win they had to get. And to me, this is what they should have done to, the Bears and the Broncos as well. But I still think the Niners are looking good with that defense. That defense is the best in the league. And I just looking ahead. The first month almost seems like preseason or something. A lot of teams are still sorting themselves out. I think if Jimmy continues to play well and continues to elevate, they seem to be on a roll as far as the offense and getting things going. It just seems like sometimes Shanahan, and I don't know if this is what you're seeing on your end, but it seems like he gets pass happy at times, or he just is like pass, and it's like run the ball. That's where you're doing good,
I agree. And AU, man, for everybody who tunes in on YouTube, the AU is an absolute real one. You make some good points there, AU. What I did like, even though Shanahan does get pass happy at some moments, and with Jimmy G, you certainly have to weigh that because if he passes too much, he's prone to making mistakes. I'd just love to see Jimmy Garoppolo doing some play action today because going into this game, we did not see a lot of play action from Jimmy G. And when he's able to get out of the pocket, what that really does is you free yourself from defenders, right? But it also gives you a clear-eye view. of the defense, and it limits your reads to half or 1/4 of the field. And if you make Jimmy Garoppolo think less, I think that's when he's at his maximum ability. So I want to see more of that play action from Jimmy G. And you're seeing a sprinkling of different elements in this Niners offense. Last week against the Rams, a lot of those quick hitters out to the left, out to the right on those bubble screens. Today is a lot of the play action. So again, going back to that point I made a little while ago, if you make this defense or make this offense more diverse with a limited quarterback, it makes you more difficult to defend. Bubble screens, rollouts. The run game is very confusing to defend against. That's what Kyle Shanahan has to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. My guy, David Corona. I see you, David. What's up, bro? Good to hear from you again.
Yeah, you too, man. Good win for the 49ers today.
Great win. What do you got?
You think Moseley would be out for the season with that torn ACL, or you think he would miss a couple games?
It's looking like if it is a torn ACL, and of course we're reacting to this right after the game. If it's a torn ACL, he's out for the year. Now, Jason Verrett did practice this past week, so if Jason Verrett is able to get back on the field with Jimmie Ward, those are reinforcements to this defense. But Emmanuel Moseley, Charvarius Ward, they've been one of the better cornerback tandems in the NFL. And Moseley has been fantastic, tackling as well as in coverage. Didn't give up a touchdown in coverage last year. So if you lose him for an extended period of time, that's obviously a really big deal. Dominic, what's up? You're next on the Niners Report during our postgame show. What's good, Dominic? Make sure you unmute yourself if you're ready to go.
Hey, Chase, what's going on?
What up, bro? How you doing?
Hey, man, can I hear you say bang, bang, Niner gang?
Bang, bang, Niner gang, San Francisco. You know the deal. What up?
Let's go, let's go. So I just got a couple comments. I appreciate that, man.
I got you, always.
I just got a couple comments and then a question.
All right.
So right now I'm watching the game. I watched every game, been a diehard fan since freaking the catch 2, right?
Uh-huh.
And as I'm watching the games, I'm noticing our defense is so stout. Kyle Shanahan's letting Jimmy G just kind of just play freely. I feel like he has enough room, wiggle room. If he makes a couple errors, I feel like our defense will kind of pick up the slack. Do you feel like that's a good formula for us to go all the way to the chip this year?
I think what the formula is, Dominic, and appreciate you taking the call, man. Always down to give you that excitement. I think the formula for success is for the Niners defense to continue to carry the load, which they've done so far this year. They are by far the best defense in the NFL. Honestly, I don't think it's close. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys, we'll see what they do next week against the Philadelphia Eagles and their potent offensive attack. It's going to be a really good measuring stick for both of those teams. But statistically, it's the Niners and the Cowboys, 1 and 2 defensively. I just think the Niners are better all across the board. Now, Emmanuel Moseley going down certainly affects them in that pass game, and it's really unfortunate news for him. But I think the formula is for this Niners defense to continue to really establish momentum, carry that momentum, set the tone, because they're so hard to go up against in the run game as well as the pass game. And then offensively, if Jimmy Garoppolo plays like he did today, the Niners can win the NFC. The Niners can win the Super Bowl. Everybody wants to make a huge deal about what teams can do offensively. But what have we seen the last couple of Super Bowls? This past year, Joe Burrow was rocked by a really good Rams defensive front and really good defensive line. The year before that, Patrick Mahomes was confused and baffled going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Offense is important, but if you wreck the game with getting pressure on an opposing quarterback, that's what allows you to become an elite team, and that's what the Niners do well. And I think that right there is a formula for success. Couple more callers to get to. Rocco, going to make you the next caller here on the Niners Report postgame show. What's up, Rocco? On the Niners Report postgame show. What's up, Rocco?
Hey, what's up, Chase, man?
Yo, Rocco, what's good, man?
Hey, what's up, Chase, man? Hey, I just wanted to know what, at the beginning of the season, our weak spot was our secondary, but now they're one of the strong points of our team.
Yeah.
What?
We lost you, Rocco.
What's your?
Go ahead with your question, brother.
Go ahead with your question. Oh, what's your thoughts on what the weakest part of our team is and what we need to do to improve that.
I got you. Weakest part of the team? Quarterback. That's why I continue to say, like, if Garoppolo plays like he did today, he took some shots downfield. Tevin Coleman, George Kittle, Jawan Jennings, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel. The plethora of weapons is why this Niners offense, combined with the running game, can be very, very good. But if Garoppolo takes shots downfield, again, it makes the Niners offense a little bit less predictable, and I like the aggressiveness there. But if Jimmy Garoppolo can just play average to above average football, that's the biggest weakness on the team. And if they iron out that weakness there, then this Niners defense combined with the offense, like there isn't really a weakness on the team. Now, Emmanuel Moseley, if that's a torn ACL, obviously that's a huge loss for this team because I do think that drastically changes what the Niners want to do in that secondary. But I've always said this, and this is kind of my team building philosophy. If you have a really good defensive line and you generate pressure on the opposing quarterback and they don't have time to actually throw, then what you're doing on the back end is alleviated to a certain degree if that quarterback doesn't have time to kind of carve you up and dice you up. Now, Jason Verrett or Ambry Thomas, Diamador Lenore, Samuel Womack, those are better replacements than what the Niners had last year, and they're not the same player as Emmanuel Moseley, but you continue to get that pass rush led by Nick Bosa. You get Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw back, Kerry Hyder, Charles Omenihu, Samson Ebukam. Like, this is a team that when it gets down to the bread and butter postseason play, when you need to generate a pass rush, they're going to be able to do that, and I believe that's how you win games. Couple more calls left to get to. Lawrence and then Treasure to round things out. Lawrence, we'll go to you first.
Hey, what's up, Chase? How's it going?
Great, man. How are you?
Good. Just wanted to say glad you're doing good on the show and hope everything keeps going well. And props to you for everything, man. Couldn't do this without you. Niners game is just everything.
Appreciate it, dude. You got anything to add with this game?
Yes, I would say this defense has been pretty good this past few games. And I would also like to ask a question. How would you think coming out this whole season could our defense still withstand, even without Moseley?
Yeah, the defense can withstand just because I believe that the depth on this team is a little bit better than it was last year. This also just coming in, it looks as though this is just a disaster. Emmanuel Moseley is feared to have torn an ACL. Jimmie Ward broke his hand. And Nick Bosa has a tight groin. Robbie Gould likely has a knee contusion. So this win, while it was dominant, did not come without a cost. Now, Jimmie Ward obviously missed a lot of time with that hamstring injury. Now it's a broken hand. I'm not sure he puts a club on that thing, but Deshaun Gibson as well as Talanoa Hufanga were the highest graded safety tandem in the NFL going into this game. So they can allow you to absorb that blow. But why I like the Niners still with these injuries is the depth that they've been able to compile. And that depth has certainly been on display and will be on display with these injuries here. And if that depth continues to play really well, that's how the Niners can really escape with some of these serious injuries. Treasure, what up, Treasure? Next caller here. What up, Trez?
Hey, how you been?
Awesome, man. Good to hear from you again.
It's been a while. I'm really proud of the 49ers for this game. I love the way they played, physical and dominant like they needed to. And I just hope they keep going with it. And here recently, I haven't been feeling that well. But I'm really thankful that the Niners won today.
Me too, Treasure. And I hope that you feel a little bit better. Here's to you feeling better, and always appreciate your support on YouTube as well as calling. Last caller of our post-game show, Nathaniel. What up, Nathaniel?
Hey, what's up, Chase?
Yo, what do you got for me?
What's the deal on Robbie Gould? Like, is the knee injury serious?
Yeah, so looking at some of the injury stuff right now, Robbie Gould, knee contusion. Nick Bosa, tight groin. So really that's the best case scenario if it's just a tight groin. His brother tore his groin. And then Emmanuel Moseley, torn ACL. Jimmie Ward broke his hand. So that's the latest Niners injury news there on that front. Not good at all. It's a victory for San Francisco. But again, it comes with losing a couple of really high-caliber players for an extended period of time. Moseley, probably for the year. Jimmie Ward, I doubt he tries to play with a cast and a club, but maybe he does. But certainly things that we will continue to monitor here on the 49ers Report. All right, greatly appreciate everybody for tuning in here on Call-In. We'll stay live on YouTube in case anybody wants to send in a super chat. We're going to sign off on Call-In, though, no matter where you are, how you tuned in. Greatly appreciate all of your support, and we'll catch you next time here on another 49ers Report postgame show.